We have trouble in Cableville. Yes. You see, Fox is killing the likes of MSNBC and CNN, and I just don't know how they continue to exist in this environment. They could maybe try and turn it around. Maybe they could try and be a little bit more neutral, maybe a little bit more balanced, or, maybe they should just close down altogether. You just close up shop because this is not really working for you, is it? Okay. The ratings are in, and we talked a little bit about this vis-a-vis MSNBC and Jen Psaki and Rachel Maddow, and how, I don't know, again, economically speaking, that makes any sense at all. Certainly vis-a-vis Rachel Maddow and the alleged $25 million she's getting for one show a week. And poor Jen Psaki, Peppermint Patty over there, it's like watching paint dry. Like, you just can't watch her. She's boring. And by the way, that's not just me. Apparently, New York Post did an interview with a number of people from MSNBC, and executives have come to that conclusion as well. I could have told them that before they put her on the air. But nonetheless, here's what you should know about Fox compared to these other networks, and it's just staggering, right? Primetime ratings, 2.43 million total viewers Monday through Sunday in primetime. I gotta tell them, we're beating them right here. I think we had 110 million last month alone right here on the Little Trish Regan network. That's why it's going to be so hard for cable. Anyway, 2.43 million total viewers Monday through Sunday in primetime since June 20th, besting ABC's 2.38 million viewers. That's like the ABC network. So that's kind of interesting, right? Cable, in this case, is beating the ABC network. That's kind of what you might call amazing. In other words, they have not been able to put any good entertainment onto ABC, their primetime platform, to the point where people are going to sit there and watch news on Fox before they'll watch, whatever Bachelorette or Bachelor, whatever shows that they've got over on ABC. That's rather miraculous. But it also tells you, guess what? People are over here. They're watching entertainment over here. They're watching news over here. They're watching opinion over here. It's where it's at. CBS coming in, just over 2 million viewers. That's really staggering. So Fox News beating the regular networks who are putting forth entertainment content that nobody wants to watch. So nobody wants to watch their news. Nobody wants to watch their entertainment. Think about that, guys. And then you look at, oh my gosh, the cable stuff. And I don't know how they stay in business. I really, really don't. MSNBC dropping 57% of its viewers. CNN losing 59% year over year. I mean, how do you stay in business, for goodness sakes? You just keep throwing money at it? I mean, you can tell they're a bunch of Dems, right? It's like the teachers union. We'll just keep throwing money at it, see what happens. Maybe these kids will get some better scores at some point. Maybe these anchors will actually be able to score a number. I'm sorry, it's not working. So how much are you paying Anderson Cooper there at CNN? Whatever you're paying him, it's too much, okay? He does not succeed. He's not doing well, and I don't believe he ever will. You know why? The medium has changed. You guys are clinging on to something that no longer exists, for sure. So nobody wants to watch Anderson Cooper look all pretty in his little suit and tie, reading a teleprompter, scripted questions, scripted content. It's over. Okay, so I'll at least give, the Fox guys this. Fox, more than any other network I ever worked at, was very talent run in that the talent had a whole lot to say. I mean, up to a certain point. I mean, I'm living proof of that, right? I had to get my scripts approved every night, and they approved my last and final one that was the big, hooray, because I called out the March 20 stuff long before anybody else was willing to do it. I mean, I thought shutting the country down as we did was absolutely crazy at the time, and I stand by that. It still was and is crazy to have a national shutdown. You protect the people you can protect. You certainly don't do what Cuomo did in the state of New York, right? Sending infected people into nursing homes. I'll never get over that one. Anyway, the point being, I did have a little free reign. I mean, not like I have over here, but I do actually think that's one of the reasons why you see Fox way out on top, because when Jesse Waters is putting together the elements for his show, he has a big hand in that. And he has a big hand in the scripts. And yes, the producers matter, but not to the same extent that they do at, say, a CNBC or an MSNBC. I think Rachel Maddow has a hand in her scripting. I mean, she takes you down some wild rabbit holes, some entertaining, wild, conspiracy-driven rabbit holes that are just, I mean, I've seen her over the years and I'm like, how does that never get called out? Like, how? Why do they think it's a right-wing conspiracy when it's right there in front of you? Russia, 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 for goodness sakes, all day long, right? And yet she's talented in the way she takes you down those rabbit holes. You don't have a lot of people in the cable TV business over at CNN or at MSNBC that can do that. I mean, you have the Joy Reid types, and Simone Sanders is taking over with a few others. They got a host of characters, Menendez and maybe two more. I mean, it's like a rotating roundtable there that took over for Joy Reid. And again, it's not informed, it's not intelligent, it's not thoughtful discussion. And so again, I mean, not to sing Rachel Maddow's praises, but she's kind of the best thing they've got in terms of, I mean, crazy and conspiratorial, but thoughtful. And then you've got, Joe Scarborough and Mika, who are the ultimate survivors. I mean, I'm telling you, these two, they're going to be there. No matter, they're going to be closing the place down at some point, but they're going to stick around and stick around and stick around. The rest of the place, you can take them or leave them. You don't need them, so you better not be paying them a whole lot of money. MSNBC, Versant. I keep trying to give them a little flair, a little French, Versant. Anyway, Versant, you better not pay them a lot because you're not going to be able to reap the return on your investment. And Fox is about to put you out of business. I mean, look at these numbers. This is unbelievable. So Fox, look, they only increased by 1%, which, I'd like to see something better, but clearly everybody's left the rest of cable. And again, I said it tracks sort of with the polls. I mean, you get Trump's historic approval rating, 55%. He's doing great. And Fox is doing great. And yet MSNBC and CNN not doing so great. So I kind of think if we look at this, guys, I think you're facing a situation where, I mean, closure could be the best thing. I don't know. I think you need to probably have a lot cheaper talent. I think you need to do away with some of the big sets and the big studios. And I think you need to find a way to operate the place on a shoestring. And if you can do that, then yes, you'll continue to make money because, look, there's still a cable business and cable companies will still pay for that content. You just won't be able to have the kind of presence over here streaming that you probably should going into the modern era. I mean, I don't want to tell the story again, but I guess I will because the kids, remember, I think I told some of you guys this when my kids were like, Mom, we used to feel bad for you. This is when I first started on YouTube and they were like, finally, you've made it. And I'm like, are you kidding? Because to me and to my generation, right? Like that was weird. Like YouTube was this weird thing where you were like doing that up in, the attic. Or in your parents' basement or something. It wasn't actually something that was real. It was like public access TV or something. And to them, it's very real. And it's all real and it's all they watch. And they can't tell you what networks are. They don't even I try and explain to them how I used to watch Little House on the Prairie every Thursday night at 8 o'clock or whenever it came on television as a little kid. And it was the one night I got to stay up late. And they don't understand. They're like, well, what happened? Like, if I didn't see it, I didn't see it. Like, I really didn't see it. No, you couldn't go back. You couldn't record it. You couldn't, and the idea of commercials and not even having a remote. Well, I mean, gosh, we had the rabbit ears as kids. So it has come so far. Like this industry is changing so much. I talked to someone, I told you guys, I went to my mom's birthday over the weekend up in New Hampshire, had a wonderful time. Anyway, and happy birthday, Mom. We'll talk about it a little later in the show. But one of her friends said, and her friend is up there. I mean, it was my mom's 80th birthday. She said, I think we're going to cut the cord. And she said, I looked at how much money we're paying on our cable bill. Forget it. We're going to cut the cord. I said, we did that. And we've saved a fortune. Of course, we had a zillion cable boxes. So it's neither here nor there other than to say, I'm looking at these numbers and I'm stunned. I'm looking at these numbers and I just don't know how MSNBC and CNN continue to stay in business. I mean, again, if I'm the executive running that, I think you have a few choices, right? You can close them down entirely. You're probably not going to do that. I mean, it's like radio. Radio is still a worthwhile business to be in. You can still print money there. You just have to run a really, really, really tight budget. So you got to have a tight budget, which means you can't have Rachel. It means you need a lot of, wallflowers that aren't going to pop on camera. Because I'm telling you, if you can pop on camera, you're not going to be over there at the network. You're going to be right here, right? I mean, we're coming up on 1 million subs, for goodness sakes. You're going to build something of your own where you have your own independent voice and you don't have to kowtow to any middle management reviewing your scripts, who then wants to turn around 24 hours later and give you a kick in the pants for it, right? Kick you to the curb after they approve the thing. I don't hold grudges, though. Here I am praising Fox, okay? I really don't. It all worked out in the end for the better. I do think that they are going to have some decisions to make, and they're going to have to cut expenses, and they're going to have to cut talent, and they're going to have to cut producers, and that's just the way of the world, okay? So then you say, well, who are they going to get rid of? And I do think that Rachel Maddow, for certain sake, like, by the way, if I'm her, what do I want to be there for anyway? Like, I'd much rather be doing my own podcast. I guess she does have a podcast. I don't know if MSNBC owns it or not, or sells it, or it's some kind of partnership deal. But I mean, I'm like, bye, I'll see ya. Sayonara, right? Like, who needs it? So, it's a mutual thing. I'm sure she is not that interested in being there. Of course, what am I saying? 25 mil for one show, one show a week. You could probably make that work, right? If you're her, you try and find a way to make that work. But if I'm the network, I'm not going to make that work. That is too much money, absolutely too much money for numbers like this. It's not like anyone's doing well. Look at these primetime numbers. We were talking about how they looked over the course of the summer. I'm looking at August versus June, primetime down 57% in views, 71% in demo. That's what they're actually trying to sell over there at these networks. Their demo. This is a train wreck in real time. I mean, what changes it? Maybe if somebody had some faith in the Democrat Party. So this is really interesting, guys, because again, look at how it's tracking with polling. Donald Trump's doing well in polling, and Fox is able to survive. These guys aren't able to survive. Because again, think of the changing climate. You have more opportunity. You can go more places. You don't have to watch on traditional cable anymore. So given that diversity of content that's out there, you as a consumer get to make a whole lot more decisions, and you're deciding, probably not you, you probably never watched MSNBC or CNN to begin with, but people are making the decision to go elsewhere. They're simply not watching these networks. And that is a problem. I mean, I don't know how they keep the lights on. I really don't, because you can't be in business with numbers like this. Advertisers are not going to pay up. They're not going to pay for this. And you have a certain built-in cost structure that you can't get away from. I mean, CNN, similar thing, disaster right across the board. They're looking at total day, 333,000 total viewers. I mean, again, we'll do that on a show for an hour here. It's just shocking how bad these numbers are. And they're down 15% in the demo in primetime, down 10% in total viewers, down 15% in the demo during total day. You can't keep the lights on with a situation like that. So what do? They have to change. They have to make some kind of, and I don't know what the answer is for them. I mean, well, I know some of the answers. One of the answers, and this is the most obvious one, is you run this business until it won't run anymore. I mean, there's two ways you can go. You could say, okay, we're just not going to collect the cable fees anymore, but they can't do that because it's like, they're addicted to the cable fees that they get. And you guys know how that works, right? Like the cable company pays CNN, I don't know what they're paying them. Call it $2. It could be $5. It could be $7 for all I know. Who cares? Anyway, whatever they pay them per household, that's the money they get. But they're not allowed to then take that product and go and stream it and, repurpose it in the same, well, they can repurpose it, but they can't stream it live. And so they miss out on all that revenue. Meanwhile, everybody's like over here, right? Doing something totally, here I am streaming live, doing something totally different and really innovative and hopefully refreshing, right? Because of the transparency. I mean, you guys were with me the other day when the camera broke down. One of my producers was like, Trish, come on. We got a fan for the camera. We fixed that. But nonetheless, I mean, you see the good, bad, and the ugly. And I think you kind of like it. I know I like it. It's a heck of a lot more fun. I mean, here I am reading your comments in real time, which is kind of cool. Sue Gordon, good to have you here. I am going to talk about Newsom coming up. Jeff, good to have you here. He does know his pronouns for sure. Stella Smith, Texas is going to be more red in 2028. We know that. We know that. Without a doubt, Texas is going to be very, very red. It's getting redder by the day. And part of that is because of the changes that they made, of course, to the map. Look at it. Wow. Fox is killing everyone. I mean, like, how do you exist? Oh, can you imagine the defeat they feel at CNN, at MSNBC? Look at this, 72,000 in the demo. 78,000 at CNN. They get 783,000 compared to the big kahuna 2.3. Over at Fox, 444,000. Like I said, we do that on a given show. I mean, not to toot my own horn, but you know what? Like, we've built this thing from scratch. You and me together. Because you are so much a part of this, guys. And I have a couple people that help me. And I'll tell you, this is tremendous what we've been able to build. And we're taking on the big guys. I mean, they want to be news and opinion there at Ms. Yeah. The Ms. Network or whatever they're calling it. Nobody really knows, not even Rachel Maddow. She was asked about it and she's like, I don't really know how to pronounce this. Well, the guy who's the ultimate survivor, the survivor of all survivors does.
We will become MS Now, which stands for my source for news, opinion, and the world. And look, Andrew, they even have a graphic up. I like it.
There it is.
Actually,
the new logo.
It looks very sporty.
Yeah, you guys tell yourselves that. I'll tell you what you did. You went from rainbow to red, white, and blue. Oh, I guess, you know, reality's catching up with you. You know, that rainbow thing wasn't going over so well. Anyway, no one's watching cable. So ultimately, I think that's the real problem that they face. And frankly, it's the same problem that Fox faces. They can't get away from the sinking ship as well. Granted, they are by far the best of the bunch, and they're commanding the largest audience share. That can change pretty quickly, though. Don't forget what happened after J6, right? Didn't you see a total reversal? I mean, Newsmax was beating Fox in the ratings. And so I would say that, you know, the viewer can be fickle, and the viewer should be at all times remembered and respected. And perhaps Fox, to a certain extent, learned its lesson in that sense and has, you know, come back to the fold. I don't know how much I believe it or buy it. Only take a look at the Wall Street Journal, which is also owned by the same person that owns Fox. And what you will see is that there's a for sure definite bias against this administration. So just saying. I mean, they're going to do what they're going to do to stay in business, right? Kind of like Scarborough is going to do what he has to do to stay in business and be there on Morning Joe. Whether or not some of the others can, I don't know. Jen Psaki, she just doesn't have a ton of talent. And then she kind of has a bad habit of stepping in it, like the other day.
We may never know why Donald Trump suddenly spent a week hiding entirely from the American public. But you don't actually need baseless online conspiracies to explain why he might not want to show his face in public right now. I mean, for starters, there's the polling, and boy, is it brutal.
Jonathan Manson, I agree with you. Rachel Maddow is running out of things to criticize Trump on. She can't rally her troops anymore, right? Because, you know, when you're sitting there trying to justify the crime levels in Chicago or DC, Jonathan, I think you're kind of on the wrong side of things. And that's where Americans are coming out. What do you know? You look at the internals of this poll, this historic approval rating that's just shocking the media. They're like, how can this be? How can it be? Well, guess what? He's getting his highest approval ratings. Why? Well, because he cares about crime. And what do you think everyday Americans care about? They want to be safe. It's a natural thing. Of course they want to be safe. So when you look at what came out last week, James Johnson from JL Partners, who worked on this poll in conjunction with the Daily Mail, showing a 55% approval rate, highest he has ever gotten. I mean, think about that. Pretty remarkable, right? The numbers suggest that the majority of Americans approve of Donald Trump's executive order that he put out back on August 11th to send in the federal troops into Washington, D.C. to clean up the city, to stop crime, even as some residents, of course, continue to protest this. And so you're seeing the same kind of thing unfold, whether it be on Rachel Maddow's show, where she can no longer defend the indefensible, or whether it be on the streets of Chicago. I mean, how are you going to sit there and say, I don't want any police in Chicago, when you have such a horrific crime rate? So look at this approval rating. I mean, just incredible, incredible. As the networks, the liberal networks, go down into the dumpsters. And as Brandon Johnson in Chicago is increasingly looking like he's going to be out of a job. You know why? Talking about brilliant politics. I mean, Trump was able to effectively put Brandon on his heels. He backed him right into a corner. So what do you do if you're a boxer and you're like in a corner, right? Do you just keep like until you die? Or do you give up? Or do you try and be more creative on how you're striking back? I'll tell you this. Brandon doesn't have the right moves. He needs to take a few boxing classes. You know who had the right move was the woman in D.C., the mayor, Muriel Bowser there, because you know what? She said thank you. She said thank you. That was the right answer. You don't fight this, okay? Because he's willing to give you more resources to make your city safer. And yet you want to pretend you're like Gavin Newsom out there. Oh, we can't have anybody helping us on the crime front. Gosh, no. You know, it's part of our charm in California. It's part of our charm in the south side of Chicago. I'm sorry. I'm over it. And you know what? With what we saw this weekend, that horrific story, absolutely horrific. It makes my stomach turn every time I think about it. The president weighing in on that. I'm going to get to it shortly with that poor Ukrainian woman. I'll tell you, if that's not a wake up for the need for police, better punishments. Don't get people. I mean, the guy had been in and out of jail, for goodness sakes, over and over and over again. And he suffered from mental health issues, and you turn him loose. And the mayor there in Charlotte, you ought to see her reaction. My gosh, Ashton Matthews, thank you. I like that you like my energy. Thank you for that. I'll just tell you, that's not the way to go, okay? And you want to know why he's doing so well? Because Americans want to be safe. It's not that hard. TV networks, you want to know why you suck in the ratings? Because you don't tell the truth. And you try and get out there and, deliver the party line. Nobody wants to hear the party line anymore. They want to know what you actually think. If you have a soul somewhere deep down inside you, any MSNBC anchor, please tell us what you really think. If you can. Okay, maybe you can't. So you got lousy talent and you get a changing landscape. A changing landscape that does not favor the cable companies anymore. I got out when I could. What can I say? Good timing, good timing. You know what they say? Luck of the Irish. I've always had it. Anyway, I got to look at this and say who stays, who goes, right? Because I think Jen Psaki's absolutely at risk. I'd keep her for the Rolodex only. If it's still good anymore. One of you guys was saying that the other day. If it's still good anymore, you keep her for the Rolodex, but you do not give her a show, for goodness sakes. I mean, this woman has no presence, no pizzazz, no nothing, no intellect, no nothing. I mean, okay, she has a Rolodex, but nobody wants to see the people on television that she can bring on. And she can't hold a show herself, so what are you doing? You got to rethink the Rachel thing because she's just too expensive. I mean, that's just reality, right? I mean, Psaki is just boring and her ratings are a disaster. And as I told you, the New York Post quoted people internally saying, we just didn't realize how boring she'd be. I could have told you. I had to watch those press conferences with Peppermint Patty at work. Heck of a liar. But you know what? That's not what people want. They don't want liars on television. They want authenticity. They want transparency. I will say, I got to hand it to Morning Joe for being the ultimate survivor. I mean, the guy sounds like he's suddenly kind of maybe neutral. He's like trying to help the Democrat Party find its way through this storm. Remember the day after the election? This was fantastic. So Joe had not shown up in a suit and tie like in years. Like he was just in his grungy clothes all the time. I mean, he thought he was a podcaster. And suddenly he's all spiffy, all spiffed up. the morning after the election and declaring it a landslide. And we haven't seen anything like this since Reagan. And I'm like, who are you?
Well, I mean, so much to go through, so many questions. I came onto the set and Willie said, hey, by the way, because we were talking about the historic nature of this sweep.
Yeah.
And Willie said, do you know, he only lost Illinois by 4 points.
4 points in
New Jersey by 5. I mean, you talk about we had talked about a red wave 2 years ago that never materialized. This is I've got to say, this is the biggest red wave I've seen since Ronald Reagan's 49 state victory in 1984. It seems every Republican across the country improved.
What do you know? He's like, I better get it together. Come on, Mika, we're going down to Mar-a-Lago. We're going to go kiss the ring, as Rosie O'Donnell said it. And so they did. But I'm telling you, like, I don't trust them because he's the same guy who told us it was the best Biden ever and was willing to stump for Biden in my estimation, horrific ways, because the kind of accusations that were being leveled at the other side, meaning, me and maybe you, if you're watching this show, if you were for Trump, then you were somehow the equivalent of some of the most heinous people in all of history. And when you're willing to go there, I no longer trust you. And then you can't just flip a switch and come back and suddenly be all for, the working man and Joe Schmo, basically. You can't. I know who you are. I've seen your colors. Unless that was fake too, which maybe the real answer is you're just a total phony and all you care about is your paycheck. And you're looking at it going, okay, well, we're going to have to reinvent ourselves. We need to stay in business. And I think that is why he's trying to put on a new act. But look, I think the whole team of them are really facing challenges unlike anything they've seen before. In a normal cycle, right? The election happens and, maybe your team doesn't win and you feel like your audience is just not there. They're not as excited anymore. How do you get them excited? These are normal sort of kind of, secular things that you would deal with in the news business. But you couple that together with this onslaught of new content and new creators and the fact that it's all on demand and that you can get it in a very different kind of way, in a very transparent way, in a very 3D way, right? Where I'm reading your comments and I see the good ones and I see the bad ones. Hey, Alex, it's good to see you back here. I appreciate the comment, likes the show today. And Sue, it's good to see you as well. I see some names that are very familiar now here on the program, Piece of My Mind, of course. Keeping up those likes. You sound like Dawn right now, 1,500 likes and counting. Let's keep them going. Anyway, the reality of it all is that it's not just the normal sort of cyclical, that was the word I was looking for, cyclical, forgive me, ups and downs in the business that might be related in somewhat to the election cycles. It's actually the fact that the industry is changing massively. And so you've got to keep up with those changes. I'll tell you, The View is trying to keep up with the changes, but it can't figure it out. They just came out with their streaming show on the weekend, and they just recently added Whoopi to that. They're just talking about like fun stuff, like entertainment and this kind of thing, because, well, the head boss, the guy who runs Disney, Bob Iger, has instructed them to try and get away from politics, but none of them want to do it. They're like, this is our sweet spot. Your sweet spot, right? It's like the sweet spot that may get you kicked off the air, for goodness sakes, that may actually cause ABC to lose its FCC airwaves permissions. That's some sweet spot. Anyway, they came back on TV today, back with a bang. And even the person that's supposed to be like the neutral character there, she's trying to go on and on about why Trump can't actually use the National Guard and why he shouldn't use the National Guard because it doesn't do any good. It's like, hello, lady, did you see the crime numbers? Did you? I mean, did you notice the 87% drop in carjackings that, by the way, the mayor of D.C. is actually thanking Trump for? Apparently she didn't. She was on vacation. What can you say? They live a nice life getting to take their summers off on The View. Watch. Her name is, I always forget this, but I wrote it in the rundown so I wouldn't, Sarah Haynes.
saying here.
Yeah.
But the bigger part with him constantly sending in the National Guard is it's not effective. So you can concede, Alyssa, as you're pointing out, there are crime problems in our cities. There absolutely are. But what would be more effective is not treating the symptom, but the root causes. Yes. They could take the equal amount of money that they dispensed into D.C. and house every homeless person for a night.
But then they wouldn't have an issue.
Keep them there for, but that's my point. Politics is less about solutions and more about politicking.
And being
if they wanted
again.
to solve the problem,
right.
they could infuse money into these communities.
Our thanks to our friends over at Media Research Center, aka Newsbusters, for collecting that for us. Look, I beg to differ. I beg to differ with Ms. Haynes, because you know what? It's not all about throwing money at the problem. We figured that out with the school systems now, didn't we? It's not about money. Sometimes it actually is about police presence. It actually is totally about police presence. I mean, there's been a zillion studies on this, and I have only to look at the last couple of weeks in none other than Washington, D.C. to see the improvement. Again, carjackings down. I put these stats up the other day for you guys. I don't have them handy, I don't think right now, but it was pretty remarkable because it was like, wow, you know, the murder rate was down. They went 12 days. I mean, they broke their 12-day streak, but that was like a record, right? 12 days with... Sadly, I mean, it's just amazing we have to say this, no murders in Washington, D.C. Washington, D.C. has a murder rate of 44 per 100,000, which is insane, like absolutely crazy insane. And just, it actually is so much worse than some of the worst places in the world that you can't believe that this is our nation's capital. And so, yeah, putting the National Guard out there, it does a lot. I mean, visually, you want to talk about a deterrent? This stuff works, but you know what? This show is so freaking biased. We know this. They're so painful. These ladies, our friends at Media Research Center, did a study, and these ladies are so left-leaning and so liberal-leaning that it turns out that they didn't have a single conservative on their show in 2025. I mean, like not one. I mean, did they count Alyssa? I mean, did they even have like Chris Christie? Because he doesn't really count. I mean, they did have Schwarzenegger. I showed you that one, right? Joy Behar's jaw was on the floor because Schwarzenegger was like, listen, if you come to this country as an immigrant, remember, you're a guest in this country. It's like being at someone's house for dinner. If I go to stay at somebody's house for the night, believe me, I make my bed in the morning, right? Like, you need to respect that you are in someone else's country. And as an immigrant himself, he said, look, I've done everything I can to give back. I'm a big believer in giving back because I've been afforded these enormous opportunities. And Joy was like, so that's the closest they've come. He's not really a conservative. I guess these never Trumpers aren't really conservative, shall we say. They would probably beg to differ. They'd probably say they are the authentic conservatives. And, you know, to a certain extent, I'm not going to totally disagree with that because they keep saying that Donald Trump was so smart. He took over the Democrat base right from under them. I mean, to think that, you know, you had the union guy out there at the Republican National Convention. I mean, he was talking away, and Donald Trump stood there and allowed him to speak. And, you know, I know we don't necessarily love those guys, and they're not always pretty, but the point is they were given a platform, and they took it, and slowly but surely he's chipping away, right? Chipping away and chipping away and chipping away. And what did you see with the union vote? Nobody in the union was actually voting for Kamala Harris. They were all voting for Donald Trump because he's representing working men and women in America. And so, you know, you got the elites out there on ABC with the $1 million paychecks representing something totally different. They don't think the National Guard matters in Washington, D.C. They get their own personal bodyguards escorting them in and out of the studio. Listen, they do. They have a driver that picks them up. I mean, I've been there, done that. You have a driver that picks you up, and you have somebody in security that meets you at the stage entrance, that escorts you into the building and then back out, and then you go home and, you know, you get your doorman building and all's fine, right? They don't live the same life. Donald Trump doesn't either, but for whatever reason, he seems to have more empathy for people that do. And that comes across in spades. And so he has taken the Democrats' platform right out from under. I mean, just another thing on The View. The study came out last week. It's pretty funny because these women are like the most unliked in all of daytime television. Surprise, surprise, surprise. AJ saying that The View pushes the people that lean left straight into Trump country. And I think you're right. Like, I actually think like at some point, you're just like, enough already. Like maybe I was in the middle, but now I'm full on MAGA. Okay, I'm full on MAGA because I can't take it anymore from these people that tell me somehow it's my fault. We talked the other day about microaggressions. I had never heard that expression until I was at some book club gathering, and somebody said, well, I didn't want to go to this school because I felt like there were so many she was talking about where she was going to send her kids, microaggressions. And I'm microaggressions, like what the heck? So I go home and I look it up, a microaggression. Oh my gosh, like if I just look at somebody the wrong way, if I wear the wrong color, if I'm slouching, like it could be a microaggression. No joke. I mean, this is crazy talk, people. Crazy, stupid talk. This show was not supposed to be this way. Barbara Walters never wanted it to be this way. They have polluted it with the likes of Joy and Whoopi and a few others on there. And now it has just turned into a train wreck that actually could cost the entire network. Because as we've been through, Brendan Carr, the head of the FCC, he has made it very clear to Disney's Bob Iger that you can't just abuse the public this way. The majority of Americans do not actually trust that show or your entire news network. So if they don't trust the airwaves and you're feeding them 92% of the time garbage about Donald Trump that's not true, well, at some point, don't you have to pay a penalty for that? Donald Trump tweeting out 2 weekends ago, hey, you know what? We want you guys to have to pay up for those FCC airwaves. The other suggestion he had was to just take away their licenses altogether and get them off the public airwaves. Now, isn't that interesting? Maybe that would force them to actually be in the streaming business, which they're trying to do. You know, they're inching into it. They've got their little weekend show that they're doing, taping on Fridays, talking entertainment news. But, you know, their heart's not in it because as they told us, they don't want to talk entertainment news. No, Sunny Houston is very explicit on that. Ana Navarro as well. Oh, we just want to talk politics. Problem is, nobody wants to hear you talk politics. Hence ratings that are not doing well. Hence advertisers pulling out. Hence Brendan Carr looking at possibly taking away your FCC license. Dun-dun-dun.